Grand Marshal Zekter of the Arcturian Defense Force watched with barely concealed disdain as Lieutenant Jack Harlow adjusted his primitive projectile weapon. The Galactic Alliance shooting tournament had been a tradition for millennia, but this was the first year humans had been invited to participate. Primitive species, primitive weapons. Zaxxar muttered to his aide. Chemical propellants and metal projectiles. Like watching a museum demonstration. The tournament arena gleamed with holographic projectors, anti-gravity stabilizers, and quantum-locked barriers. Moving targets phased in and out of existence at increasing speeds and complexity, standard challenges for the Alliance's top marksmen. Most advanced civilizations used particle beams or plasma weapons that traveled at near light speed, making the competition one of pure reaction time and targeting computer efficiency. The humans had declined to use Alliance standard weapons, insisting on bringing their own, a diplomatic courtesy that Zykstar now regretted extending. "Human competitor ready," announced the tournament AI. Lieutenant Harlow stood calmly, his stance relaxed but balanced. Analog weapons steady in hands that had never been genetically enhanced or cybernetically augmented. His eyes, natural eyes with no targeting implants, scanned the course methodically. The first targets appeared, standard difficulty, moving at predictable speeds. Harlow's first shot missed by nearly half a meter. Muffled laughter rippled through the alien audience. "As expected," Zykstar snorted. "Their neural responses simply aren't fast enough." The second shot also missed, but in a different direction. By the fifth shot, all missing in seemingly random patterns. Zyktar's aide was already drafting a diplomatic message, suggesting the humans might want to withdraw to avoid further embarrassment. Then something peculiar happened. One of the hardened security barriers at the far end of the range shattered as a ricocheted bullet struck it at precisely the right angle. The fragments scattered into the path of 3 targets, disrupting their movement patterns. "What was that?" Zykstar straightened in his seat. "Just a stray shot," his aide assured him. "Their projectiles bounce unpredictably." But as Harlow continued firing, more accidents occurred. A bullet struck a support column, causing vibrations that disrupted target projection systems. Another hit a water pipe, creating a reflective spray that confused sensor readings. By the 15th shot, the entire targeting system was malfunctioning, targets flickering, moving erratically, or freezing in place. When the final scores flashed, Lieutenant Harlow had achieved the lowest direct hit count in tournament history and the highest overall target neutralization rate ever recorded. The arena fell silent. "What just happened?" Zykstar demanded, his 6 eyes blinking rapidly in confusion. Admiral Jackson, the human commander, approached with a pleasant smile. "Is something wrong, Grand Marshal? Your soldier didn't hit the targets." "No," Admiral Jackson agreed. "He didn't aim for them." The Galactic Alliance Council chamber buzzed with angry voices and translator devices struggling to keep up with a dozen alien languages expressing the same sentiment. Outrage. This is not how the competition works. Zykstar's cranial ridges darkened with annoyance as he addressed the council. "The humans exploited loopholes in our rules. The tournament measures precision and accuracy, not whatever this was." Admiral Jackson stood calmly before the council, Lieutenant Harlow at his side. "The rules state competitors must neutralize targets. Nothing specifies direct hits." "The rules are implied," sputtered a Centaurian official, 4 eyes blinking in synchronization. "In my experience," Jackson replied, "implied rules are just expectations waiting to be challenged." The council voted to allow the human score to stand on a technicality, but implemented immediate rule changes for future competitions. As they left the chamber, Harlow could feel the hostile stares of alien competitors burning into his back. "They hate me," he muttered to Jackson. "They fear what they don't understand." The Admiral replied, "And right now that's you." The following day brought a new challenge, the Alliance combat simulation. Teams would face increasingly difficult combat scenarios in a massive holographic arena. The humans were assigned to a mixed species team led by Zykstar himself, an arrangement that felt more like supervision than collaboration. "Follow orders precisely," Zykstar instructed during briefing. "Our tactical computers have calculated optimal positions and firing solutions for each scenario." Harlow nodded, but said nothing. The other aliens on the team avoided eye contact with him. The simulation began with standard enemy formations. Zixar's team performed flawlessly, each member executing the precisely calculated tactics with machine-like efficiency. Harlow followed orders, taking his assigned position and firing directly at targets. By the third scenario, the simulations grew more complex. The enemy adapted, identifying patterns in the team's responses and countering them effectively. "Maintain formation," Zixar ordered as their position became compromised. "Sir," Harlow spoke up, "if I could suggest." "Maintain formation," the Arcturian repeated, mandibles clicking with irritation. The team's performance deteriorated with each new scenario. Their perfect precision became their downfall as the enemy predicted and countered their every move. By the sixth scenario, they were surrounded, tactically defeated. "This is impossible," hissed a Proximan teammate. "The simulation is cheating." "It's not cheating," Harlow said quietly. "It's adapting. May I try something different for the next round?" "Your approach cost us valuable points yesterday," Zixar replied coldly. "We will follow established protocols." But after their third consecutive defeat, Zixar reluctantly turned to Harlow. "What do you propose, human?" "Unpredictability," Harlow said. "The simulation learns from patterns. So let's not give it any." "Absurd," muttered another teammate, "a silicon-based life form with crystalline appendages." "Combat is mathematics. There are optimal solutions." "Not against an adaptive opponent," Harlow insisted. Only one team member seemed interested, a young Arcturian named Kivzix, who had been watching Harlow intently. "I would like to hear the human's plan," she said. Zixar's inner eyelids flickered in what Harlow had learned was the equivalent of an annoyed sigh. "Proceed." Harlow outlined a strategy that sounded like madness to the aliens: deliberate misses, seemingly random movements, and firing patterns that made no tactical sense. "This will fail spectacularly," Zixar predicted. The next scenario began, and the team reluctantly followed Harlow's bizarre instructions. They fired at walls instead of enemies, moved when they should have stayed still, and retreated when they should have advanced. Their score plummeted. Harlow could feel the resentment building among his teammates with every point lost. His throat tightened as he realized he might have made a terrible mistake. The weight of representing humanity pressed down on him like a physical force. "This isn't working," the silicon alien announced, crystalline structures flashing with frustration. "It is," Kivzix countered, pointing at the enemy formations. "Look at their responses." The simulation's enemies had indeed become confused. Programmed to predict and counter optimal tactics, they couldn't adapt to actions that followed no discernible pattern. "Continue," Zixar ordered, his tone still skeptical but curious. By the ninth scenario, the team's score remained abysmal by conventional metrics, but they had survived scenarios that had previously defeated them. The final challenge approached, one no team had ever completed. "What now, human?" Zixar asked as the scenario loaded. Before Harlow could answer, the simulation changed. Instead of the expected enemy formations, they faced a single massive opponent, an AI-controlled dreadnought with impenetrable shields. "Impossible," whispered Kivzix. "The Omega scenario. It's unbeatable." The team's weapons had no effect on the dreadnought's shields. One by one, team members were eliminated until only Harlow remained, pinned down behind rapidly disintegrating cover. "See where your chaos has led us?" Zixar's voice came through the comm. "A perfect defeat." "Not yet," Harlow replied, studying the dreadnought's movement patterns. Its attacks were devastating but predictable, designed to counter conventional tactics. Harlow abandoned his cover, but instead of retreating or attacking, he began a seemingly random series of movements, firing not at the dreadnought, but at specific points in the environment: power conduits, structural supports, reflective surfaces. "What is he doing?" Zixar demanded from the observation deck. "I'm not sure," Kivzix replied, leaning forward. "But look at the dreadnought's targeting systems." The massive AI weapon had begun to malfunction, its predictive algorithms unable to calculate Harlow's next move. Its weapons fired at Harlow's previous positions, always one step behind. "He's not fighting the dreadnought," Kivzix realized. "He's fighting the simulation itself." Harlow's final shot struck a power junction that had been exposed by his previous hits. The resulting cascade of failures created a feedback loop in the dreadnought's systems. The simulation froze, then crashed, then rebooted, showing the dreadnought neutralized and Harlow still standing. The simulation hall fell silent. No team had ever defeated the Omega scenario. Impossible, Zextar whispered as Harlow removed his simulation helmet. Not impossible, Harlow said, just improbable. The debriefing session that followed was unlike any in Alliance history. Officers and scientists crowded the room as Harlow explained his approach. Your species uses perfect targeting computers and weapons that cannot miss, he said. We evolved on a planet where unpredictability was our greatest weapon. You see a direct line to your goal, we see the entire system and how to make it work for us. But your score in the standard metrics was the worst ever recorded, an Alliance official pointed out. Because you're measuring the wrong things, Admiral Jackson interjected. You value precision, we value effectiveness. Zextar's cranial ridges had faded to a thoughtful blue. It is disturbing, he admitted. Your technology is centuries behind ours, yet you achieve better results through this lateral thinking. Later, reviewing the simulation recordings, what initially appeared to be random actions now revealed themselves as a carefully orchestrated sequence. Each movement and shot had been calculated not to directly defeat the enemy, but to create cascading effects that ultimately led to victory, if we ever faced them in actual combat. Zextar left the thought unfinished. The implications hung in the air. A species that didn't follow predictable patterns couldn't be countered with standard tactics. When the Alliance wargames were announced for the following cycle, Zextar personally requested Lieutenant Harlow as an advisor to the Arcturian team. Better to learn from these strange humans than to face them unprepared. They thought we were bad shots, Harlow later explained to Admiral Jackson. They never considered we weren't aiming at what they thought we were aiming at. Jackson smiled. Sometimes the best way to win isn't to play the game better, it's to play a different game entirely. Across the galaxy, military strategists began desperately studying human history, human literature, human games, anything to understand this species that approached problems so differently. They found a recurring phrase that sent chills through their tactical computers: thinking outside the box.